Okay guys, so this is 8.1 honors, and if you're in my Math 7 class, this is 6.1 for you. Okay guys, so what we're looking at here is populations and samples. And I know I'm gonna have to define that, that's why I'm doing the vocabulary back here. Okay, so my essential question is, how can you use a sample to gather data about a large population? Okay, now first we wanna look at the vocabulary. We have population. Population means all the inhabitants in a particular area. So in other words, if we were looking at the school here, the junior high, the population would be all of the students, okay? It would actually include the administrators and the teachers too, and the paras and everybody that's within the school, okay? If we are looking at the sample, that would only be a small part or quantity intended to show qualities of the entire population. In other words, a small part of the population. So you might say like the 7th grade, or maybe just our B team with the 7th grade. That would be a sample of the entire population, okay? It may not be an accurate sample, so we have to take in what is the scenario that we're looking at to be able to take in that sample. So the way we're gonna look at that is we're gonna look at example 3. So I'm gonna move this over here, and we're gonna look at this and look at some of the stuff that we're looking at. Okay, so first I'm gonna read this, okay guys? So you guys should have this already, okay? So we're on example 3. Now example 3 says, Ravi is running against 2 other candidates for student council president. All of the 750 students in Ravi's school will vote for student council president. How can Ravi generate representative sample that will help him determine whether he will win the election? So in other words, he doesn't want to go through and look at the entire population. In this example, the entire population would be the entire student body. So in other words, all of the students within that school, okay guys? So that would be the population. The sample size would be a portion. Now here's the thing, if he wants to figure out whether he's gonna win the election or not, he has to set some parameters, okay? So what I did was I set those parameters for him, and I said, okay, we want a sample size. If I'm gonna do a sample size, I'm just gonna do a portion of the 750 students, and that portion is gonna be 100 students. That's what we're gonna look at as a sample size. We're gonna do 100 students. So that would be determined by you, depending on what you feel a big enough sample size would be so that you can determine whether you're going to go through and win the election or not. Now, here's the problem. There are always variables in this. For instance, Ravi's a boy. Does that mean that more males are gonna vote for him than females? What is the male to female ratio based in this population, the entire population of 750 students? You would have to look at those different types of variables. So in other words, for variable, I would say one variable would be male, female. Is it a 50-50 scenario? Okay, is it a 50-50 population? Are 50% of the students male and 50% female? That's some statistics you would want to figure out. And it's definitely a variable within this, okay? Now what they would do is, to figure this out, is let's say we set the parameters and we say we're gonna sample 100 students, okay? And that it is 50%, 50%, okay? Then they would go out and they would try to find 50 girls that they could talk to and see who they would vote for, and 50 boys that they would go out and see who they would vote for. Then based on that sample, if he won based on that sample, then he can make a prediction that he would win the entire election when the entire student body voted. Okay, that's why we do samples, because we can't go out and look at the entire population if it's too large. All right, so let's look at our next one. Now, this next one is XL number 4. Okay, I know. Let's see if we can see that. Yeah, you can see that still. Okay, so I'm going to have to read this. Hopefully it'll come back up. Yes, it does. Okay. So it says that a bag contains 7 blue marbles and, 7 green marbles and 28 blue marbles. Okay. If a representative sample contains, what did they say? 1 blue marble, how many green marbles would you expect in the container? Okay, so you're gonna have to explain that. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at. First of all, we have to look at the parameters here. The example, the population, is based on green to blue. So what I do is I do this. Okay, I put it in ratio form. I'm gonna say green over blue. Okay, and the reason I stumbled through the reading of that is because the XL that came up is different than the one I originally did to formulate this example. Okay, so this is green to blue, right? Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to put into ratio form the green to blue. In other words, there are 7 green and there are 28 blue. Now right away, when I'm doing fractions, because we've done this before, I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, to make this easier to understand, I'm going to reduce it. In other words, I look at this and the greatest common factor between the two of these is 7. So I can divide both of these by 7, right? And I get to a 1-to-4 ratio. That means for every green marble, there are 4 blue marbles. What this does is it makes it easier for me to then go through and calculate what they were saying. In other words, if there are 2, so I'm going to take that 1-to-4, right? And they say if there are 2 green marbles, how many blue marbles would they be? Now I can look at this straight across and go, okay, for me to get from 1 to 2, I would have to multiply by 2. That means I should also multiply this by 2, law of ratios, right? And that means that this is 2 to 8. It's proportional, okay? So it's going to be 2 to 8. That means if I have 2 green marbles, I'm going to have 8 blue marbles. Okay, guys? So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that was coherent when I went through it, okay? But the point is to ask questions in class. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me. I can even go through this question again, okay, guys? All right. Good luck.